One step at a time now.
Right.
It's a little,
Right.
it's a little fast. So we were, it was kind of hard for us, especially because we were like the only two Muslims that we knew, me and her. And so we were trying to separate ourselves from our old friends and things like that. And so at first we were like, let's not rush into it. I was 20 at the time, and she was younger than that, 17, 18. And so we separated for a few months, but eventually we decided we should get married in Islam. And so, alhamdulillah, we've been married for the last about 3 years.
Allahu Akbar.
Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar. So, and I think that's been good, to be a new Muslim and be married, because it keeps you in check, a bit. And so, we've been on this journey together, alhamdulillah, rabbil alameen.
MashaAllah. And so you both came enrolled here in the university together, or?
I'm enrolled in the university. She works in the UW hospital, actually.
And UW, that's
The University of Washington Hospital.
okay. And what's your major here in the university?
My major is Middle Eastern Studies,
And now, did you choose that major after you became Muslim, or?
yes, I did.
Okay.
I knew I wanted to have something to do with Islam. I wanted to teach about Islam in some facet, and I still do. That's my goal. Whether it's in academia or whether it's in a more traditional setting, I do want to be a voice for Islam in the West, and help to, being an American, being someone that looks like an American when Americans look at me, speaks like an American when they speak to me, and understands culturally, understands the circumstances, because I've grown up in them my whole life. I think that it's a great opportunity, and I feel that it's kind of like an obligation to me, because for me, it's brought me the most joy in my life, and it's brought me true peace of mind and peace of heart. And when that happens to someone, they can want nothing else but to share that with others and to have others experience that. So, yeah.
And let me ask you, because you mentioned something earlier about the hip-hop culture. And I just want to ask you, because this is a worldwide phenomenon, is it appropriate for the Muslim youth to adopt the identity of the hip-hop culture?
That's a good question. I think it's a fine line. And I think there's definitely very beautiful and noble elements to hip-hop. And, it encourages empowerment of people, and it encourages, it can encourage righteousness and right behavior in certain facets. And historically, and at its source, what it was and what it is the voice of the voiceless. And I think therein lies its power. But of course, if anyone watches the news or listens to the radio, they're going to know that that's not all that's involved in hip-hop, and there's, a lot of...
Because I just have to amplify one point, hip-hop as a genre, 99% of it doesn't personify anything positive, it is a vehicle to do something positive, but what's popular out there is talking about nonsense. Killed this one, was with that girl, did this, did that, and then say Allah. Like you said, somebody mentioned Allah inside.
Right.
Well, what's the purpose of mentioning Allah's name in the midst of all of that fitna which they're talking about, which went on? And it's not only the music itself. A part of hip-hop culture is the clothing, the gatherings where you go, where hip-hop music is being played. So what I'm trying to get at is that we as Muslims, even for Muslim young people like you, a young Muslim brother, and you've established your Muslim identity. And people who like the Seattle Supersonics, they wear Seattle Supersonics jersey to identify with that team. So I'm asking you, is it appropriate for an identity for Muslims to say, I'm a hip-hop, or I'm down with this hip-hop culture?
Yeah, there's two sides to that. On the one side, there's so much negativity. You can't really put yourself in the pool and not get wet. You know what I mean? And if you surround yourself with that type of environment, the drugs, the alcohol, the promiscuity, and the debasement really of women, how are you really going to stay away from it and be in it. At the same time, there's an argument for, but hold on, this hip-hop is the language of the American people. We're called the hip-hop generation, my generation. And now, it's like you said, it's a global phenomenon. So the prophets were all sent, peace be upon them, in the language of their people. And so the question is, can you toe the line? Can you speak about halal matters? Can you call people to Islam through this medium that is going to affect much more people than an imam who stands up here, you know? Because this is what people are listening to. And the many Muslims, it's unrealistic that Muslims in America are not going to listen to hip-hop. Many Muslims identify with that, identify maybe because they're non-white, or they're, you know, they are objectified or treated as lesser, and they identify with this hip-hop culture maybe. You know, these people were speaking about that oppression and things like that. So, I mean, you raise a very good point, and I don't pretend to have the answer.
Right.
I mean, you know, like I said, for me, the first time I heard the word Allah was in hip-hop. It was also happened to be a Wu-Tang song, and they also talk about drinking and all other types of things that aren't Islamic by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
So, no, I don't think that shouldn't be the supreme identity, because in reality, what is it? Wearing the hip-hop clothes and things like this, we're trying to emulate, we're looking up to someone. As Muslims, we have someone to look up to, right?
Yeah.
And that's Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the new artist will change, you know, it'll be a new artist, it'll be 50 Cent, it'll be whoever next year. I mean, they come a dime a dozen. In the industry, they don't last long. But we have the eternal example. The clothing styles will change, whether it's baggy to tight to hoodies to, you know, baseball caps, whatever. We have the eternal example. We have the eternal sunnah. We have the kufi. You don't need the baseball hat. And so, I mean, you know, as far as, like I said, I don't have the answer as far as, but it's very hard. It's a gray area. And the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, stay away from the gray area.
No. And let me ask you another question, Akhi, because, you know, as I travel around in the Muslim world, and you probably find the same thing in America, people ask us, in America there are a lot of Caucasian people, and there are a lot of people coming to Islam, but how come a lot of Caucasian people are not coming to Islam?
That's a very good question, and I've thought about it myself quite a bit. And I'm not sure I have 100% the answer, but I feel like Islam in the African American community has much more of a appeal or following because of the historical roots of African Muslims, African American Muslims. From the time of slavery, there's many Muslims. It's estimated 20 to 40% were Muslims that were brought here. So you see people trying to reconnect with their roots in that way. And also, I mean, we talked earlier about Malcolm X. And there's many great African Americans that were also Muslim. Now, historically, there really hasn't been many Caucasian or white Americans that have been Muslim. And I don't know really the reason. I think a lot of people that I meet that have left Christianity, you know, Europeans or Americans, they say, I'm not really interested in religion because Christianity is obviously false and obviously man-made and is used to control. And what they do is they apply that to all religion. So they say, forget all religion. And I think deeply embedded in that is a type of Eurocentrism, really. They said, if we don't have the religion that's truth, then no one can. And I find that in